Peace and blessings be upon you all, guys. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Baraka Boys podcast. Before we get into today's topic, we want to introduce a good friend of mine, a good friend of the Baraka Boys.
Drum roll, please!
Okay, give me a drum roll. Omar Sharif.
Yeah.
If you'd like to introduce yourself to the good Baraka Boys audience.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Omar Sharif. Honoured to be on this table today with the man them.
Hey!
Yeah man, you know how it is.
Yeah!
That professional voice came really fast. Hello, my name is Omar Sharif.
What's that?
Code switching.
But like I said, we're going to be keeping it real chill today. We've got an interesting topic to talk about. In fact, inspired by a tweet from the brother on my right here,
The Gambian.
Follow him on Twitter, Mamadou Tal. He was talking about something interesting. He was talking about...
Isn't it at the Gambian?
No, so he's changed to Mamadou Tal now, yeah.
Oh wow,
That's
professional.
bare plugging right now.
Okay.
You're following
Branding,
it.
The Instagram is at the Gambian.
Oh!
There you go.
okay.
Even though it's on the screen in the beginning of the show.
And then
Okay,
I don't deal with that side of the show. I just show up.
you did an interesting tweet. You said, I'm going to read it out for you guys who can't read it. It's 7 slides, but it was a really interesting point that we talk about Islamic art today and what makes something Islamic. Not just art in general, but just the term Islamic. What does it mean? Is it a dress code? Is it a culture? Is it a particular side of the world? What does it mean? You made an interesting point. I'm going to read it out to you guys. He said, hate to say it, but why do Muslim artists, by artists here, I thought you were going to attack me when I read this. I was like, where you going with this?
artists like Khalid Sajid.
Why do
I
Muslim...
said Muslim.
Why do Muslim... I feel like we're just jumping from last... Straight one.
Because I was still remembering it.
I'm still hurt.
Why do Muslim artists, by artists here, I mean poets, rappers, comedians, singers, get away with trash content? That's a big statement. Why do they get away with
Why
trash
did you start with
content?
poets?
Second-rate art is praised. Second-rate art is praised and hailed as something extraordinary, when at its best, it's meh. I've always said what you was rating it then, 1 out of 7. When I speak to my boys about what they think of this person's art, i.e., this Muslim person's art, they usually respond with, it's crap, but for Muslims, it's good. Which begs the question, is the bar set so low for Muslims that we are expected to produce low-quality content, making some great points here. When I started questioning myself on this further, I realised it's not a Muslim problem because we clearly have Muslims who are killing the game in the mainstream. French Montana, DJ Khaled, Scissor, Dave Chappelle, Kevin Gates, Krypton Conan, just to name a few. Then I asked myself, is it a problem when those who are ostensibly practicing get into the industry? But then again, no. Brother Ali is dope, Mustafa the poet is stupidly talented, Lupe is a legend, and my sis Nadira is hilarious. Follow on Instagram, Nadira_P.
Hey.
Just to make a few. So I've concluded that the problem is when people try to make Islamic and halal alternatives to mainstream content is where it usually goes wrong. How I started my career, but that might really where it loses originality, is usually cheesy, and most of the time it's quite cringe.
At the end, is there something you'd like to say?
I was feeling attacked at this point. I was like, wow, you woke on the wrong side of the bed today. If they didn't have a Muslim fan base, they wouldn't be near as loved or popular as they currently are. But hey, it's good marketing. They wouldn't blow mainstream, and these artists know this. They get away with producing weak content, knowing that it will do well amongst Muslims. Can't blame them. Now, I will say, the level of attack I experienced while reading this was an all-time high, but it was, a lot of it was, if not all of it, was very true. In fact, that's a big insecurity of mine, of me thinking, am I not that good of an artist just because my audience, the bar is quite low anyway, so it wouldn't take a lot for me to blow, basically. So I'm like, that's why I'm maybe looking to expand into different regions, because I want to be able to prove myself that I'm good as an artist, not just with the Muslim audience, which is usually, not to say every single Muslim watching this has a low bar, but as a general collective, you can say it's quite low. You don't need to be amazing to kind of get there. I'm going to throw this out to Mohib. How true do you think this statement is, that the bar is for Muslim artists, and again, not just musicians, poets, anything that's creative outside of becoming a scholar, anything that's creative, the bar is not quite high, because as soon as you say Allah, mashallah, brother,
Yeah,
that's beautiful, you wrote Allah with this, and the paint is amazing, it's just because like you can say it's crap. You can say it's crap.
I feel like the reason why a lot of people are not saying that things are crap because it's new. A lot of the time it's new, and when something's new, you sort of let people get away with having low standards to begin with. You don't want to hurt their feelings, you don't want to ruin their career, you don't want to chastise them before even trying. And I feel like the scene now with regards to creativity and like art in the Islamic sphere is still growing, and I feel like because it's still growing, it's still in a very developmental phase where the artists themselves know that their work probably isn't that good, but the Muslims in that group feel like, let's just boost them up anyway.
Well, they're not like doing
That's doing a disservice.
All you've said is true, but it's very important to recognize it's a Western Muslim problem.
That's
Because it's not
true.
in Asia. We have Qawali. They have
Yeah.
music, very good
Oh, yeah,
content. They have
yeah.
art.
Bang.
We build beautiful mosques in Morocco, in Turkey.
I
in
think
those places,
the problem
also,
is
sorry, just to carry on.
No,
there.
sorry, yeah.
Also as well, it's also like, for example, in West Africa have great music, for
Yeah.
centuries going back.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's first of all, it's a Western Muslim problem. Then we have to look at the trajectory of Western Muslims. For so long, we've been bombarded by Saudi Arabia cultural output.
That's true.
Yeah. So whatever was equated with Saudi Arabia.
I don't even think it's Saudi Arabian cultural output
and Asian.
because
And Asian.
traditional Saudi music and culture is quite lit. You know, remember the
Yeah,
guys that I posted
with
on
the swords
with
and
the
all
swords.
that, yeah,
Insert
yeah.
clip here.
Yeah.
No, but like, sorry to cut you off, but
Saudi culture is lit by itself.
Saudi culture, like Khaliji
There's
music,
like there's a
is lit.
different
Like,
type of
if you
Islam
listen
that gets
to
exported.
yeah,
They
what they
gonna follow
export
that.
and what they keep inside
Yeah,
is
it's
different.
different.
Because
Yeah.
like, if you look at those, there's like gatherings that take place in Mecca before Ramadan to like welcome Ramadan and stuff.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
you see like they got the drums and the sticks and
But that's the thing that
dancing
I've until I've seen that video last Ramadan. The one before that, I'd never seen. I would have said they were from Sudan or something because they were quite dark and I don't think these are Saudis.
Well, that's the hidden history of Black Arabs, but that's another
Yeah.
podcast for another time. We'll save that for the
But
rest
it's
of
not even
the
special. Like that kind of music's been there for centuries. But the kind of topic we're talking about now is like these nowadays Muslims are trying to replicate like drill beats and that kind of stuff. It hasn't gone back. So
You mean it's not like traditional?
it's
they're
not
not going back to tradition.
no,
They're just going back to
they're
what's
trying to follow what young people
popping today.
want now.
Yeah.
But
The
you
kind
see,
of
what
beat-
young people want now is gonna become a tradition in the future.
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
like you see
exactly.
hip hop
True.
now. Yeah, when hip hop started in the 80s, it was a youth thing, and now it's become a tradition because you've got grandpas in the game, you've got godfathers in the game, where it's like, raw. We grew up on hip hop culture. There's books written about it. There's PhD theses written about it, and I feel like the problem with this whole Islamic thing is because all those countries you mentioned, like Morocco, Turkey, West Africa, Qawali music in Asia, and they all. The art wasn't so it's like everyone there is Muslim and then they just produce art and then they happen to talk about Allah, they happen to talk about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they happen to maybe dedicate their art exclusively to praising Allah and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but it's part of a wider context of this is the culture, whereas here now in the West, Muslims are a minority, they're immigrants, they're trying to find themselves, and then they've created
This
this
is what I was saying.
Islamic
It's a Western
culture.
Muslim problem because
And
they're
that's
trying
what I
to
wanted
force
to say
an
to
identity.
you. Yeah, that's exactly. And
That's the issue.
when you have a group of people whose identity is in crisis, your art is going to be derived from a place of crisis. And when your art is derived from a place of crisis, you're going to get mixed reviews, but no one wants to admit that because it will further propagate this truth that we're in a bit of an identity crisis. So, for example, someone makes good art. So someone makes art, whether it's good or not, it depends. And all the Muslims are like, wow, this is just amazing. It's sort of like a defense mechanism, as opposed to saying, well, this is crap, because we don't want to be
You have
honest.
to validate your Muslim brother or your Muslim
Yeah.
sister.
It takes a certain level of confidence in yourself to be rooted in yourself, who you are, and still be able to say, but that's still.
Like,
that's
I remember
still
once
dead.
someone had
I know what
a
you're
sheet on.
saying, and
Yeah.
everything is still
Yeah.
representing the faith that I believe in and everything, but I can still say shit.
Yeah, I remember I was in the car. I was in a car and someone had this nasheed on, and I was like, oh, you take this off. This is so terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, it's so terrible.
Well, look where it
And then- no, but look what happened.
We come from videos having classes with.
Yeah, but look what happened.
And then you'll be raised.
70,000. Copy. But you know what happened when I said to that person in the car? I was like, what? This is terrible, and they just looked at me like, what did you?
It's
just
almost blasphemy.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
You insulted the
brother, like
guy.
this is like, do you know what he's talking about here? And I was like, well, like, dude, come on, we believe what he's talking
I think
about.
that's kind of linked in with if there's a Qawali and doesn't have a particularly amazing recitation, and saying, "Can you turn this off?" It's like, oh, you just said turn off the Quran. Like, it's,
No. I said turn off uncle. I didn't say turn off Quran. I said turn the uncle.
Because to acknowledge that there are levels to this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the Prophet appointed particular people to recite the adhan and to lead it over others. Meaning there must have been some level of quality control.
And the Prophet.
I know you got a lot of energy, but
didn't the Prophet ﷺ used to he used to have certain poets that used to be essentially like rappers. Essentially, I'm bringing it in today. Rappers in like this. Oh, these lot are cussing us. We need you to cuss them. So. And they appointed their best poet, battle rapper. Their best battle rapper to not only defend but to also insult as well. Yeah. And that's why he used to go back in their family and their lineage and where they came from. And I was like, oh, so he already. And it was super eloquent. And it was eloquent as well. It's like, oh, but he only sent the best one. Who was it?
Hassan ibn Thabit. Yeah, there's a few of them.
Yeah, there's a few, and it's like it's not gonna be. He wasn't sending like. If it was like the quality of this our era, they're not gonna send the local poet.
He's about to name a name there.
We're not gonna send the lesser poets or the lesser artists. We're gonna like, fam. If we're gonna rep who we are, let us send the best. We'll send Amir Suleiman to represent us as poets. Why? Because he is the pinnacle.
My question is, when did we lose our standards?
This speaks to me when people are no longer doing religion, like no longer being Muslim, and Islam is like a thing they do. Like, for example, something they do on the weekend, for example, because they will listen to non-Muslim music and not feel guilty. But when it's Islamic music, it can't have instruments in it. And I
think because it triggers this kind of level of guilt. Because I've said this to Umar, like there's a community of Muslims out there, and they fit this description where they're not practicing per se, meaning like they're I don't know, because we're all sinning, but like they're not overtly practicing. They're Muslim by name and they're struggling, and not judging them in any way. But it's like if they were to practice, in the back of their head, it would look like Saudi. Yeah. Or if I was to do it, it's that. So even
Saudi just had that concept with 50 Cent.
I know. Like, we know what I'm referring to. It would look like that traditional Sunnah, white thobe, and the big
that didn't exist.
If I did, we all know this. We all are very aware of this. But if they were to
don't
do
make
it,
me come back for the polyester film.
if they were to practice, that would the women would all be in the niqab, and then the all the men would be like that, and that's what it looked like. Even though they're not doing it. So even when they see you trying to mess up their image of what they one day might run and return to, they'll still attack you for it, and then they'll look like hypocrites because they've got no hijab in their profile or they're smoking weed. But in reality, and they're not, because because you're messing up the image that one day when I'm older I'm going to return back to this. And I find even a lot of like the Muslim rappers that are out there today, they still have this kind of image. So if you talk to them about Islam, you think they'll be really liberal with their points, but it's like still very like this is what it is.
I talk about liberalism and conservatism in Islam anyway.
Well, I mean.
No, but I just hate that. I think there's a false dichotomy between liberalism and conservatism.
I'll be honest, I don't really know what the word means. It is, I kind of understand.
I sometimes throw it into the sentence to make myself sound smart.
You ask Muslims what it means, they don't know what it means.
I believe
conservative means, because traditionally...
Yeah, it's because of hierarchy, that's why. It's because of men. Patriarchal hierarchy men. Lobsters.
No, I'm just saying, like, traditionally, liberalism just means you're anti-control. Anti people being against like super overbearing government. Yeah, that's what liberalism traditionally meant. Yeah, but my problem is when you go through the history, liberate. But now it's been equated to me. If you believe in an easy outlook on life, you believe the deen should be one of ease, which is
just one of those.
I the Sunnah.
I was gonna say
religion that's hardship for you.
It's like a pejorative now.
Prophet had two options. He chose the easiest one. Ibn Abbas was known to be very easy. You know what I mean? So all these
everything promoting ease.
But then that becomes then so that I say, you know what, I want to make things easy for myself. You're just liberal. Huh? So what does conservative look like? It means that you have a big beard, you have you wear thobe.
Yeah, but that goes into the whole religion of people feel like the religion needs to be hard because then they feel like they're worthy of Allah, they're worthy of these things. But it's like when in reality you're never worthy, and it's only by mercy.
Who was that with the other day? Was that with you when we were talking about something and then they were like, "Nah, it's too good to be halal."
The meme. No. Something enjoyable. Is this haram?
And then I was saying to them, like, isn't it so mad that for us, like we have this thing in our minds where if something is good and it's enjoyable and you're having fun, it must be haram.
Exactly.
Like it must be haram.
It's just conditioned at that point.
It's
Like
conditioned,
as you go on, anything that was funny, it eventually at some point got made haram. And then so it was a great
So you
point
just
that
kind
you
of beat
made.
the people to it.
Yeah, like you said, it's not necessarily on the onus is not on the person. You know, when you say something's fine and then someone's like, "Oh, prove it," and it's like, no, the onus isn't on
I
you.
said
to prove
everyone,
it.
I said
Like,
that
the
shit
onus
only
is on you saying that if it's haram,
Exactly.
then where's your proof? It's not me for me to say it.
You see me do something, you shouldn't ask me, where's your evidence for it?
Burden of proof
I should
is
ask
upon the
for it.
claimant.
Where's your evidence
Where's
against
your
it?
So I
evidence
said
against
the principle is called al-ibaha. Anything, the default ruling of everything in the Sharia is permissibility. So when you see me wearing an earring, for example, you should be like, oh, what hadith says you can wear an earring? I should ask you, no, what hadith says I can't wear an earring? That's the starting point. No, and there's no hadith that exists.
So back to Mohit's point about this kind of fear of saying when Muslim art is quite visibly, evidently low and needs to be told if that's your friend, and we're scared to do it. Why is it linked to like almost blasphemy of like to say, and maybe people even aren't even aware of it, or maybe people are aware of it.
You know, I think I just to add on to that, I think that because we've you know, in the West is a very individualized place. You know, the West, its ideology is individualism. That is the individual has a sovereign right to rights, and compare that to other collectivist societies where, you know, the more the better. It's sort of like the more collective that we've become, Muslims have now tried to like force this collective ideal, because most of the Muslims that came to the UK and immigrated come from collectivist societies. Collectivist societies are like small villages that work together. If you work outside of the group, then you'll get hammered back into place. Yeah. Whereas in the West, it's like 100% set as an outcast. And they've come here and they've tried to create this super hyper collective Muslim fraternity. And it's like, if you say anything about that Muslim brother's art, you're essentially insulting him. And that's where people feels like super, what's the word?
Do you know what? I don't even think it's that. Do you know what I think it is? I think it's all to do with this label of Islamic.
Yeah.
Like, people have this condition where if you label something as Islamic, that is sacred. And so now it's above criticism.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is Islamic clothing. Oh, this is Islamic music.
And
oh,
that doesn't
this is
exist.
Islamic, and that concept doesn't even exist within the deen of something that is Islamic. It's either it's halal or it's not. Do you know what I mean? This is
Like,
halal,
did the
this is
materials
haram.
take shahada for that to be
But
Islamic
for us
clothing?
now, so like for us now in this Western context, it's like anything that's kind of pseudo Middle Eastern, pseudo thing. If people come and slap the name Islamic on it, it becomes something that all Muslims have to buy into. So like all these people selling caps with the word sabr and hope and like all these simple, like just basic Arabic words here. All you need to do literally is just take a cap, slap an Arabic word on it, take a jumper, slap an Arabic word on it, and now that's Islamic clothing. Then
Have you guys seen the Topshop one that says shaitan on it? Topshop sold like
In
a
Arabic?
jersey and it says shaitan on the back of it.
I've seen that.
I thought it said in Arabic and
it's
people were
like-
buying it.
It's like, so you've put this whole thing of, okay, well, anything that has Arabic or anything that's kind of Middle Eastern and they label it Islamic, then we have to buy into it. And it reminds me of this story that I heard in Senegal where there was a guy that he saved up his whole life to go on Hajj and he never smoked. I think I've put this in a previous podcast.
No. I think you just spoke.
And then he went on Hajj and he came back and he was smoking. And then they were like, Astaghfirullah, like when you go on Hajj, you're meant to come back changed. Why did you come back smoking? He said, hi. He said, smoking. He said, when you go to Mecca, all the Arabs are smoking. He said, even if you look on the pack, they wrote Quran on it. Because for him, anything Arabic was Quran. Do you know what I mean? He said, there's even Quran on it. It's good. This is a good thing to do. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same kind of mentality that we have. It's like anything that's Arabic or anything that's slightly Middle Eastern, once you slick the Islamic label on it, it's now like, that's the thing to do.
Was this not bound to happen though? Allah revealing the Quran, essentially, I don't say branding it, but calling it Islam, giving it to an Arabic, to an Arab prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and obviously he had the Sunnah, which is you do the way that he did, do things the way he did, and obviously he was an Arab, so he sallallahu alaihi wasallam did things in an Arab way. Is it not just was this not bound to happen that we all other Muslims?
No, do you know why? Number
you can
one,
understand it though.
Number one, I can't understand it because number one, I can understand it from an ignorant point of view, but from a like if you actually look at it, so like for example, you're saying, but you know that like for example, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he first received revelation, Khadija took him to her cousin Waraka ibn Nawfal. He was an Arab Christian. but he was Arabic. So all the Bibles that he was reading was in Arabic. Even till today, there's Arab Christians who read the Bible in Arabic and they call God Allah. Do you know what I mean? After the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Musaylama al-Kadhab, he came and said he was a prophet and brought a revelation. That was in Arabic too. We can't take that now and say, oh, well, because it's Arabic, we're going to slap the label Islamic on it. Do you know what I mean?
I think going as far as that anything written in Arabic is Islamic. That is understandable.
But that's literally what we're doing.
Trying to like bend your
It's
culture
identity.
and everything.
That's
towards
literally what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's
all
like
about
now,
identity.
you'll see, for
We don't have
example,
an identity, we're
people
lost.
will get married, and they're Pakistani or they're Arab.
Yeah.
Or, they're Pakistani or they're African or whatever. But because they want to have a halal wedding, they'll be playing Ahmed Bukhati at their wedding. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, Arabs don't even do that at their own weddings. Do you know what I mean? But it's just because
It's religiosity,
you know,
isn't it? That's
he's
what it is.
Muslim and he's singing in Arabic,
Yeah.
so by force we must. Do you know what I mean? Bro, in Gambia, for example, or in Senegal, if you want to do an Islamic wedding, you call people to do zikr, they'll do zikr for you in Wolof. Do you know what I mean?
I went to a Pakistani wedding. The guy wore a full Saudi outfit. He was a Pakistani guy. He wore a full Saudi kufair.
Was his wife from Saudi?
His wife wasn't. No, he wore the full like Saudi kufair and everything, full garms.
Was it Halloween?
And, and then I think someone asked him, like, why don't you just wear shalwar kameez? Like, you're Pakistani, why don't you just wear shalwar kameez? And he was like, don't be silly, bro. Come on, man. Like, nah. And I feel like that's the crisis that we're in now. We have a massive identity.
What you're touching on is culture now.
Yeah.
And people forget that the Sunnah is not culturally
Precisely.
predatory.
Yeah,
The Sunnah
precisely.
is a filter for culture.
Yeah.
The Deen is a filter for culture. Deen doesn't come with like a
And
culture.
where does art come from?
Exactly.
Culture.
Culture. So, for
Yeah.
example, obviously, art is
I think you should say that again. That's really like a really deep point.
No, so
Islam is
not
is-
culturally predatory.
Sorry, the
It's
Deen
not
is a filter
For culture. It's not
culture, so you can
predatory.
have it. It's a filter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
filters
not-
to remove all the
it's
bad
not-
out of your culture.
It is not a culture within that blue. Yeah,
It's not a culture within
It is not a culture within itself.
It's like the
It's a
riverbed.
filter.
It's like the riverbed. So when water's running through streaming through the river, whatever the color of the soil is, it takes that color of the water. It takes that color. So for example, so a British soil will take that British flavor to it,
Yeah.
whereas Africa will take.
Because
So then
I've
why
always
now? Sorry,
That's a
the
sick
question
point,
is
man.
now
That's
then,
amazing.
why is Islamic culture that we're creating? So I'm not even going to go into the debate of what is there such thing as Islamic culture or not, but like this Islamic culture that we're creating for ourselves in the West, why is everything inside it so rubbish? Why
Straight
is
up.
the Islamic music
up.
so crap?
Straight up.
Why is Islamic poetry so crap? Why is it that as soon as Muslims do something and label Islamic on it, it's low standard? There's no kind of inspiration in it. There's no like.
Do you agree with that? Are you saying that, or are you saying that?
That's a fact.
I'm just being devil's
That's a
advocate.
fact.
I'm just pushing that out
Who are
there.
you comparing it to?
That's a fact.
I'm comparing it to everything else.
comparing it
For
to-
example,
I'm comparing it to Nas.
One thing, no.
Yeah, okay,
One point, for example, yeah. Look at Muslim rap, the Muslim rap scene, or the Muslim nasheed scene. I'm talking instruments and non-instruments. Compare it with the gospel scene, or the gospel rap scene.
Wow.
River Song is out.
Oh
What's it
my
called?
days.
Hillsong.
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 River
Elevation
Song.
Church.
Hillsong is out here.
It's lit.
Even Spac Nation, do you know what I mean? The drill rappers, what are they called?
Yeah.
I don't even know their names.
Hope dealers.
Hope dealers. Do you know what I mean? If you put Hope Dealers, next to any other drill artist, they're just as good as them. And
you know
they're
you-
talking
that
about
whole
Jesus.
dance
They're
came
talking
from-
about.
No, but you know what you'd find?
That whole dance came from the Hope Deal.
Yeah, they did that
You know
one.
what
in
you're
the-
trying to go
But why now, when you
But
bring
you know
Muslim
why?
rappers,
Yeah,
obviously the ones that are my friends are not included, but the ones that are not my friends,
I am Briggs' friend.
the ones that are not my friends, some of them they're so rubbish.
Do you know
and
why?
it's like, and the Muslim singers as well. It's like you
know
can't
why?
sing in the mainstream world. You couldn't make it. So why is it now that you can just label your thing as Islamic and push it out there,
Because
and
there's
everyone will
no-
now funnel into it?
Because there's no filter. There's no one that's going to turn around and say, "You're crap. Go home."
Do you know what? Do you know
Well,
what?
and you know those Christians, well, you know the Hope Dealers, I guarantee the Hope Dealers and Hillsong and all these other guys, they were probably musicians before Jesus entered their heart. They were probably musicians beforehand. They had,
To the
deep,
pound,
they had a
Jesus.
deep passion. Half these people, these Muslim nasheed artists, I would argue,
Weren't musicians.
weren't
Definitely weren't musicians.
weren't musicians beforehand, and a lot of them, not all of them, probably weren't really passionate about it. It was like, oh, this is like a fun thing to
But
do.
you
but
know,
going-
even
going
if
on-
they were
going on-
musicians,
going on
they
from
were
that.
musicians that couldn't make it in the mainstream.
But
So
going-
then they now came
But
to
we
say, "Let
can't-
me just talk
No,
about."
because
it."
you could say that. You
we
could say
can't
the
use
same. You could say the
mainstream to
same
measure
thing. You
what's
could say
good,
the
though.
same thing about Khalid. And the thing is, some of you have heard some of Khalid's songs before. I'm his brother. If Khalid put out a shit song, the first person's going to tell him is me, and he knows that. But what happened is, obviously before when he used to, he knows I was a fan of his music before. Then he became halal. I was like, yeah. But there was a drastic drop in what he was doing. So I think it'd be good for Khalid to maybe say what he was going through. Obviously, I can say it from my perspective now, but better for yours because I haven't tried to.
I was going to mention it coming from
Because so you're like, I'll tell you. Tell me what. You're one of your best songs in the world. But I'm saying, but then you came down.
When you're writing, when you're a musician and then you're not, there's no particular agenda or no specific community that you're writing towards. It's just
you're just writing your truth.
It's just your ear as to what is good and what's bad. Like, is this good or bad? And then your audience, your vague audience in your head, it's other people who have the same standard of like. So I can't say that's cheesy, so because I'll get called out for it. Right? That doesn't sound good. I'm not going to sing that because they'll know it doesn't sound good. So I mean, I know most real good artists don't really care what people think, but there has to be some level of like awareness. But when it came to me stopping doing the music I was doing before, which was like aimed towards just music lovers, which is standards very high. Just if you're gonna,
if you love music,
music, obviously more hip hop, but still a very high standard. Now to then I go, oh, let me look at the Muslim scene. And it's a lot lower.
Like so the rhyming pattern, being a lot is good, a lot is great, he is nice, and he is my mate. Do you know? And the thing is,
that's a banger there in the Muslim community.
That's a freestyle. Someone saying that, innit?
So I'd write, or I assume these kind of Muslim artists write with the Muslim audience in mind, knowing that
they're gonna get brownie points for mentioning.
If I say,
things.
and I was drowning and it felt like a pool until I found Allah and His Rasul. It's like, boom.
Okay.
I got that one. And it's like that was not.
That was good.
That was not a good line.
I know, but to a group of some people, because you're the problem.
Because people go, oh, did you see the way he got the ocean? Yeah, ocean. And the pool. Oh, they're same water, but one is the dunya. Brother Aki, we need to come back. And it's like, I know,
you know what it's like. You know, if I was insecure, and then say there was like loads of people. And it was all like presenting their music, and then you had to present your music. If I was really insecure and like whatever, and you could put out Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. If I'm insecure about because you obviously represent me, you being my brother, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that was sick. I know it's not sick, but because I'm trying to have an ulterior agenda in my
which is what I think you do when I release my music. Why I don't listen to you.
I tell you if it's shit. Or I'll just stand up like. Yeah, so that's what I do. Anyway, point is...
you know what?
Point is...
No, can you stay on that thing? Because I made a song the other day and he did that. And I remember I was so gassed. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And I showed him. He's like, yes. And he walked out. I was like... No, but what that did was...
Let me finish my point. The point is that I think Muslims have an ulterior... Like the music, the poetry is all this like comes and goes. The ultimate agenda is making the world become Muslim and convincing everyone that Islam is the best thing in the world.
It's like a hidden dawah.
Whatever you put out, I'm going to go and say it's the most amazing
I don't even
thing.
think that's the case, because if that was the case, then they would make sure that it was on world standard quality.
They don't care.
To push, because you can't. You can't, bro.
A lot of them don't care.
Imagine, you know girls gas up their best friend that's clearly not good looking, yeah? And it's like, oh my god, yes, lad. It's like,
yeah, but they're not.
You're actually halting her career.
What I'm saying
represents the group, and they want to show that they're slaying.
What I'm saying is, they're not aiming it at non-Muslims, or they're not aiming it at people they're trying to convince of Islam. Because if they were, they would make it better.
But why they're on the street?
No, they would name
why they're on the street?
They're aiming it at Muslims who don't listen to music, bro. They're aiming it at Muslims, and I think that's one of the other issues as well. For the music scene, for example, they're aiming it at Muslims who don't really even listen, probably don't even listen to music. So they don't know if it's good or not. Anything you shove at them, and as long as it has a bass and a beat, and this has kind of got a little Caribbean flavour, and then they'll be like, okay, this is good music. Do you know what I mean?
Black music.
My point. Muslims are so kind of hell bent on being anti-culture in the West. Yeah, we can't adopt Western culture, so everything West must be bad. It's not us. This is an anti-culture. We are this new generation.
No instruments.
So, for example, it's taken from this whole kind of post-colonial hang-up. Yeah, the kind of post-colonial kind of like psychology of like, oh no, they took away from us. Now we're in their lands where we're a minority. We must protect our faith. Yeah, so we're not involved in wider society. Muslims are not involved. So they don't know what drill sounds like normally. They don't know what good music sounds like normally. They're like, you know what? Yeah, okay, cool. This has got a bit of a bass to it. This has got he's got a Caribbean accent too. This is good music, halal music. I must like it. I must buy it.
And I think that's why. So like, if you look at, you mentioned Qawali earlier.
Yeah.
What's his name? Is it Nizamuddin Awliya? Whoever in the comment, okay, Nizamuddin Awliya, he's like a big wali in India. Yeah. I don't know just about West African Islamic history.
Just a Wally check.
No, so he was a big wali, he was a scholar, whatever.
Now after Nusrat.
Of course. No, it has to rhyme, innit? It needs what's it called? Yeah, cut this bit. But basically, so Nizam, no.
What would you trying to say?
You know when two words have the same first letter.
It's something alliteration.
Alliteration.
That's when you have
below. It's the alliteration that got them. Book me. Anyway,
every counts as 3.
Nizamuddin Awliya, Gharib Nawaz, yeah. He was a wali who moved to India, and he was like, he converted hundreds of thousands of people to Islam. Basically, like most Indian Muslims are Muslim because their ancestors converted through Nizamuddin Awliya, and he used to the sultans and stuff of the area used to go to him. He's the one that invented Qawali music because he listened to the culture and he knew that these people, they're not moved by anything. They're moved by music and they're moved by food. So his form of dawah was, I'm going to set up my khandaka and we're going to cook every day and give out free food to people, and we're going to play music that talks about Allah and Rasulullah. But the music was using all the traditional Indian instruments, the same music that the Hindus were playing at the time. He took that music and then he got one of his murids, Amir Khurso, I think he's called, Amir Khurso, and some other people, and they started writing. He wrote lyrics for them. They wrote lyrics. They got singers, the best singers, to come and sing it. They got the thing, and then that developed into Qawali music. And now Qawali music is the most.
You know the music that they got inspired from. What was that music called?
It was just music, innit? Like it was just the music of the time.
So it's like the exact thing would be drill, trap, everything that is just music.
Yeah.
And then me and Khalid to come in and just go, we're gonna make this, and this.
But we're gonna talk about.
We're gonna talk. Yeah, we'll talk about either in the way, just have our principles, because that's how we live life. Because when you are a Muslim, everything you do will represent what you are. Art is a.
It should represent.
But they say true art is everything's a self-portrait, meaning everything you create, it has a bit of you in, unless you're not being you, which is then will be fake, and people can usually suss that out. Do you know what I mean? So as long as you're being a Muslim, and you don't need to talk about because when it's like with the same that famous, I don't know if it's like a poet series, like Layla and Majnun.
Yeah.
We all know what he's talking about, but they say Layla and Majnun. Do you know, but it's like, but because of who that person was, we knew what he was talking about, and that's the same thing that you can do that with these. Trap, drill, whatever you think it is. It's like the other day when I was talking about stepping out of the masjid, but I was talking about on a drill beat. Yeah. And people like this is lit. The thing is, I don't know if it's sick because you might be lying and say it with your chest.
I wouldn't lie.
Yeah, but it's the same.
I'll be honest with you, you like my guys, innit, yeah? When I share your stuff, yeah, if I put a comment with it saying this is lit, it's good. If I just put an emoji, I mean I didn't like it that much.
Wait, what if it's a fire emoji?
No, if I share your stuff anyway, I support my guys no matter what. I'll share it, yeah?
But should you support it? Because if it's dead, you should support it.
If it's dead, you need to tell them it's dead.
Because I would tell you, if you're into this,
where does subjective nature of art come into it? I might think it's dead, but someone else might like it. So you know what I mean?
So then why are we even talking about this? Is it good?
No.
Because all the people that listen to all this bad quality music and buy these bad quality clothes, they love it. They must love it.
Because the thing is, we was even speaking about it earlier, me and Faisal. We said Kendrick Lamar. I would never, if I was, I'd be stupid to say that he can't rap or he can't, because he can do all of this. I witnessed the talent that's there. I don't like. 100%. I'm not a fan. 100%. And the same thing is like, but I can also go, this is not good. It's not about whether I'm a fan. It's not about 100%. whether, and that's when you come from a detached thing, and you're just there, and it's like I'm just judging what it is. 100%. That wordplay, that rhyme, it was not good. 100% in anyone's books. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And it's like if I want to become a fan, then that's the subjective part.
Look, people that listen to Qawali now, I don't speak Urdu innit. But when you listen to people that know Urdu, they're like, no, these are the best lyrics.
No,
Qawali, the way that they talk about it is the best way.
Maybe a better example. You like trash food, yeah? We're going to agree on that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Someone who's experienced the finest culinary around the world, he will eat what you eat and go, this is...
I've had lobster before.
get this.
Did you put ketchup on it?
away from me? Get this Jahannam food away from me because
Oh, like went into that bougie pasta.
He's experienced higher. So if you were to ever put mayonnaise on pasta or whatever, you'd be like, what are you doing? But for you enjoy that trash food.
So what you're
but for
saying?
him that has experienced higher realities of food.
And higher quality of food.
For him, it's objectively the way you describe that thing. It's 100% bad, but for you, you enjoy it. And
Uplift.
I'm about to say that it's very important that we don't just come down and sound as like negative on the Muslim community. We hate them and your stuff is trash, which it is. But I mean, it's more like, okay,
You can do better.
We should uplift you and say, you know what, you lot can do better.
You can do so much better.
No, but
They're trying
dreaming.
to become current for the young people now. Because look, there's two things that bring people together, yeah? Food and music, always. Yeah. So if they're trying to create something new for the young people nowadays, because like, I don't know, like people in year 7 now, people who are teenagers aren't going to listen to like old school Sammy Yusuf, for example. But growing up on that, for me, that was sick. But they're trying to bring in the beats and what to keep them current. For me, it was.
Was it really?
No,
For me,
it was.
For me, like Sammy
Sammy Yusuf is good. Sammy Yusuf is good. I got my
Even Maher
favourites.
Zain.
100%, but I'm saying,
I don't know about Maher Zain. I never
are
listened
you
to it.
saying, like, because sometimes I'd say, you know how Sammy Yusuf, Maher Zain, they're at the top. I'm saying, are they only there because only they are there? Meaning, there's not that many of those. But when you come to Ed Sheeran and Adele, there's loads of people like that. But the reason why it's like what pushes them forward is because they've got better. I'm saying,
Yeah, but look who's supporting
Let
them.
finish
You've
your point.
got
Finish
no
your
good
point.
singers.
Let him finish his point.
Sorry,
But the point was, like, obviously, alright, so these artists that are all crap, for example,
Yeah.
let's empower them as their Muslim
No,
brothers.
if they're
Look,
bad, they
let's
should
uplift
stop.
them.
No,
They should
not stop,
Yeah.
because everyone's essentially bad. Like Ed Sheeran, when you first hear him say he was a bad singer and he was bad at writing songs.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he shouldn't have stopped. But it's more, you're not gonna get the props that you want until you get better.
Oh, good, yeah.
But you can keep posting your songs and etc. And it's like, and if you ask me, I'm gonna be very true
if
with
what
you.
they're searching is that validation, that that endorphin of like that was sick. If you give it them, they'll stop. They won't advance higher because they've got it now. Because you said it was 6, it was like I'll stop now and I'll keep producing this. If you're not getting it, you're putting it out, no views, putting out no views. This is all right. It's like, wow, I need to up my
So
game.
I need to up my game. It doesn't happen. I need to up my game. Suddenly you've got this.
But see, like, alright, so part of your tweet was why they're still getting recognition for it.
Yeah.
Maybe because it's a different generation that is linking to it, not us. Because maybe we're comparing them to people that have really made it up there. But those people have support from, and they've been signed to all sorts of contracts.
True.
But no one's really, who's supporting big Muslim artists right now? Which big companies are supporting them?
That's a true issue. That's the issue. But we don't invest in the art stuff.
No.
And then which we bring you back to a bigger point. Who mentioned gospel? You went to the gospel.
I mentioned gospel, yeah.
The gospel scene in Christianity,
It's so
the issue of instruments or non-instruments is non-existent. Meaning they've been allowed to express and create and elevate guilt-free.
Yeah.
I think so many Muslims, when they step into this art arena, any creative, there's this really like eggshells, guilt, and you can't express, elevate, create in your purest form when you have that over your head like, am I gonna burn in Jahannam for this? Like that's a heavy weight to carry.
Yeah, man.
And
When
so,
you think dancing is haram. When
again,
you think
so props to
musicians are
all the Muslim artists out there that are besides that, because some artists, obviously I don't believe it's haram, so that guilt's kind of removed from me. But for the artists that do and they still kind of continue to do it just because they have that love, or whatever, like props to them. Because that's an incredibly courageous thing. Like the love and passion for music creating is so
That
strong
you're willing to
you
look
continue
like
to
an
do it,
idiot.
yeah. But it's so understandable why gospel is thriving, why all these other communities that don't have necessarily this guilt of like your music or it. Some people can even say, there's a grey area, but even with the grey area, that's still like be careful. Like, so you're constantly checking yourself. Is this line going to take me into Jahannam, or is it going to be the next line, or is it this one? Is this one going to get me haram? It's like that's in what space a creative light is going to shine. It's not going to be that one.
Okay.
It's gonna
I
be-
have a
So
question.
that's
I have a
understandable.
question.
That's understandable. Sorry.
No,
remember.
yeah,
your
I'm gonna
question.
remember my question. I
That's
have a
understandable for musicians.
Oh, in general as well.
Poets, they don't have an excuse. All these crap Muslim poets, they don't have an excuse. Your poetry is bad. Don't come and it's dead. Right? Oh, dead. No resuscitation.
Well, to be honest,
Operation.
Even some of the normal poets I've been listening to, like there's normal poets.
That's what I think. I think
But they'll never blow. The Muslim poets are blowing. There's Muslim poets.
They're getting booked at weddings, you know?
Getting booked.
They're saying to people, oh, we even do customized poem for your event.
No, that's your bad. I don't agree with you for that. I don't agree with you. I disassociate myself from that statement. That's Mamadou Tal. That's Mamadou Tal. But listen, the poets, there's no excuse. The clothing lines.
Yeah, the clothing.
The Islamic clothing lines.
Shout out to
such
5
thing as
Pillars.
Islamic
My man Farouk out there in LA.
Yeah, 5 pillars bands. 5
Pillars bands.
You flying the flag. Carry on.
People are making thobes with army camo strip here and strip there, and then saying that, oh, and it looks, I would not even wear that to sleep. Do you know what I mean? But they're passing it off and people are buying it. So why is it that, okay, music aside, we understand. There's no excuse. If you're making clothes, you're making clothes. Clothes don't have a religion.
I don't understand clothes.
The clothes can't be bad.
Would you
The
mind
clothes
if
can't-
they didn't call them Islamic? If they just said, here's some clothing?
If they didn't,
Yeah,
come
because
Islamic,
then
if they didn't come, I wouldn't mind because no one will see them and no one will know of them and no one will buy them because they're crap clothes.
But
But,
when they say-
it's the
when
fact
they
that
say
they're
Islamic-
labeling it Islamic now. They're pushing it into. So if you go, remember GPU?
Yeah.
Anyone remember GPU?
Yeah.
You go GPU. All the stores are there. You're walking around saying, "Okay, let me come and buy clothes," and then you're looking at all the phobes and they look like something Action Man would wear. Do you know what I mean? They even went to the level of making Muslim cola. They had remember that Cola was a Muslim cola, and I never tasted it, so I don't know if it's good. quality
Muslim
or
Kona,
not.
isn't that Shani?
No, cola. Oh,
That's Shani. Really?
That was banging, bro.
do you know?
No, Shani is bad. Kick out the damn religion.
Shani is not an Islamic drink.
No, I'm
outside of the
joking, I'm
UK.
joking.
No, but even here, do you know? Have you deeped that? You see, like if you're in Egypt, like I live in
the
Egypt
Muslim
now,
drink.
yeah. Shani is just a drink.
Yeah.
Here, Shani is a Muslim drink.
How did we get to this?
Yeah.
Do you know
It's
what I
because
mean?
it's in like Muslim areas,
Yeah,
and it's like
yeah.
you wouldn't find it in Asda.
Yeah.
You wouldn't find it in the world.
The point,
So I'm like,
when-
okay,
when I
for
said
music
about-
you
when I
have
said
an
I don't understand
excuse.
about the clothing thing. It's still with what you're saying about being anti-Western. So we don't want to replicate clothing of anything to do with what.
If you're gonna
people
be
are wearing.
anti-Western, do it good. Thomas Sankara, he was anti-Western.
Yeah.
He was anti-colonialism.
Who's that?
He was one of the greatest leaders of West Africa. He was like the
One of the
president
heroes.
of Burkina Faso, no? First president of Burkina Faso.
Fashion
So he,
designer.
yeah, because basically what it was, he was living at a time when obviously colonialism, they did everything. So like if you live in like, for example, my grandma telling me in Gambia, her grandma was a millionaire because she used to import clothes, import stuff from the UK and sell it in Gambia. That was what the thing was. Everything was imported. He said, no, we're banning importation. All the clothes that we make here, we're going to make it from cotton grown in Burkina Faso. We're going to wear it. All the food that we eat, we're going to grow it here and wear it. We're not relying on the West to do it. And he went to like a UN meeting, and there's a speech that he gave in a UN meeting, and he was wearing this amazing outfit. And he was like, this outfit, the cotton for it was grown in my country. It was sewed in my country. It was made in my country. Because if you come from Africa, you have this thing of like, oh, if you want a suit, like my dad's Nigerian, for example, in Nigeria, when you want a suit, you will never buy a Nigerian-made suit. You'll buy, oh, my suit is from Italy. My clothes are from Italy. Do you know what I mean? We have that mentality of if it comes from outside, it's better. And if it's from here, it's not as good. Thomas Sankara flipped it on his head. He was like, no, we need to have Africa for... They killed him, obviously, because that can't run. But I'm saying he made sure that at least the effort that he was making to be anti-Western, he made sure that the things were the same quality as the West,
If not better.
or if not better. China is anti-West. China is in China. They make sure that they have their alternatives and they're just as good.
You are
Bollywood scene.
Chinese.
Bollywood is not a Western movie scene. They don't make it in Hollywood. They make it in India. But they make sure it's the same level of quality or more. Do you know what I mean? If you saw that film Padmavat, I've never seen a Western film that has such attention to detail as Padmavat did. Do you know what I mean?
Saying that you've
And
seen
the way
many films, but
that's
I was gonna say.
you ain't seen many.
have you watched Padmavat though?
I've seen the trailer.
Is that the
And
one?
then
Is that
the-
the one where it's like a musical? At the same time.
The one that we
went to watch.
Bollywood.
Oh yeah, my bad.
But what I'm
It looks
saying
sick,
is,
it looks sick.
they depict their culture and their history and their whatever
look
in
sick.
such high quality. Why is it now Muslims in the West, you want to be...
Because
I don't want to say anti-Western. What's
No,
the
but
word
we can-
for...
but
Like,
no,
you want to be
you
the
can- you
opposite
can-
of the
you
West.
can-
Do it in a high quality
you.
way. That's all we're
But
asking
you can
you.
expand it to all the across the scene. Let's talk about Muslim content creators online that I come across. Yeah, they make short films, for example, which I've seen. It's dead as well. Like it's like the content is dead, the production is dead, the acting is
Shout out
subpar.
Muslim Bilal.
Shout out Big Bro Muslim Bilal. He's on
that
top.
was amazing.
Well,
No,
you
but
haven't
that's
even
a
seen it
perfect
yet. You
example.
haven't even seen it yet. But
Which one?
when it comes out,
Oh, wow.
No, but that's a
But
perfect
when it
example.
comes out,
That's a
it's
perfect
gonna be
example.
lit.
Muslim Bilal. He's a good actor, and he's got a name Muslim Bilal, but he's on the same
But
part
he's
as
measuring
all these-
himself
Do you know what I
clearly.
mean?
But
Because he's measuring
Let me say
himself.
He's not going
out
against
there.
Let me say
us.
something. You know what's happening?
It's a good point. He's measuring himself against what's out there.
Yeah, he's not measuring himself.
So they have a
because if
different
he
standard.
kept-
So they
Because
have a
when
different
Muslim
standard.
Bilal was just Muslim Bilal that was doing I'm a soldier, I came from the streets to Islam or whatever, yeah, the poem that
Everyone grew up on.
everyone grew up on that, yeah. When he was just limiting himself to that, he wasn't being creative and he wasn't being the person that he could have been.
was holding
When he
himself
went back into the mainstream now and he started acting because Muslim community wasn't supporting him, and that's another podcast for another time. We're going to talk about the free sabilillah culture that we have within the Muslim community. When he went back to the mainstream now, it's like you're not a big fish in a small pond anymore. You're in the ocean, and you have to compare yourself to all the sharks and all the dolphins and all so you have to raise your game. So since there, we've seen like he produced Intent. Or he produced it, or he directed it, or whatever.
He's acting in it.
Yeah, and he's acting in it
I
as
think
well.
he produced the Gigs one.
And yeah, he produced the
And
Essence. Sorry,
that was
he was acting in Intent.
Essence was
That last scene there, I was like,
He was acting
Which one was
in-
Essence? Which one was Essence?
the one where
The Gigs one.
When he comes out of prison.
Oh, that
When
one
the
was
guy comes out of
hard.
prison, yeah,
That
yeah.
one was hard.
So he was
directed it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So
Yeah, the
Intent,
last
he was in that,
In both of them,
and then 1 and 2, and then he did the Essence and whatever, and it's like, raw, the quality on that. I've never seen when he was in the Muslim scene to do something that to that level of quality.
it's a good
And then
point,
now
yeah.
he flipped it now, so he's got a new film coming out, and that film, like when we saw the previews and we saw the thing, bro,
I've not seen
this
it.
film,
Netflix quality.
this film is Netflix quality.
Seriously,
It's what's that film festival in France? Sundance Film Festival quality. It's that level. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's where we need to push everyone towards. We can't be having this substandard, and it makes you as a Muslim look bad.
And you're embarrassed as
And
well.
you're embarrassing, like
Because that's all you have to read. Like I would, you know how? Is Nas Muslim? Yeah, okay. Let's just say not. No. Sorry, J Electronica.
Yeah.
The fact that yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Is he Muslim or is he 5%?
100% Muslim.
Muslim.
He says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah.
And Erica Badu, is she Muslim?
I don't
No.
think so.
Okay, well she mentions it loads. Even if these people were Muslim,
Mos
you know
Def,
how
J Electronica, Lupe.
Mos Def, Lupe, you know
what?
these
This brings
people.
me to
You
a
are
point.
so proud. I'm so proud to say, oh, what do you have to offer? I have these people. You want to hear bars? Go to this man, Exhibit C.
And
Literally.
do you know what? As also a testament to the fact that if you're I'm an advocate for don't produce Islamic art or Islamic whatever. Be a Muslim that produces art.
Thank you.
Be a Muslim that produces music. And obviously the music will reflect
Get your thumb out.
be a Muslim that produces art. So because if you look now, you just mentioned all these people like J Electronica, this, that. We don't even know if they're Muslim or not. Some of
J
them.
Electronica is.
J Electronica is, but like Erica would do you're like, but she mentions it a lot. Why does she mention it? And this is something that like is part of this whole. No, it's not even that. It's part of the development of hip hop culture in America, and you can book me for. Before Malcolm X, the history of Islam in the Americas, and I'll explain this in greater detail. But in the early Renaissance, like the days of the Renaissance, Harlem Renaissance, and the jazz movement, most of the jazz musicians were Muslims with Muslim
jazz
names.
music is
Do you know what I mean?
pinnacle
People like-
of music.
Do you know what I mean? People like Idris Muhammad, all these people, they were musicians that converted to Islam through a Sunni Muslim organization that was in New York, that before Nation of Islam, before Malcolm X. And they all became Muslim, do you know what I mean? And then they were Muslims, praying, practicing, but they were playing in the jazz scene, they were making their music, producing. So people became familiar with, Muhammad, Islam, Idris, through them. In the early hip-hop scene, a lot of the rappers were Muslims, or they took Shahada, they became Muslims. Then they started talking about Allah in their music. They're rapping still, they're still the coldest rappers, but they mentioned the deen.
what do you
So
think
then
the rules are?
that leads to people like Lauryn Hill saying, don't forget about the deen, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, and she's not even Muslim. Because you grow up on...
You get green too.
Yeah, keep your deen so you could get the green too, because they grew up in a culture where Muslims were presenting quality art that affected the rest of the wider culture. And that's how we were in the past.
Yes,
Because the Muslims in the Middle East, in the golden age of Islam...
how can
I'm
those
getting there.
Not only that,
In the golden
the
age of...
rules, like what was
We'll
the
come to that,
change?
we'll come to
And
that.
how can they start to
In the
measure
golden
themselves?
age of Islam, all of the scientists
What?
that were in the
Golden
golden
age
age of
of
Islam, like, you know, the Abbasid period that everyone talks about, and Andalus, for example, all of the poets, mathematicians, scientists, that they, you know, Muslims, 101 Muslim inventions, they were just Muslims that were producing art on high standard quality, and everyone was benefiting. Christians will go and study, Jews will go and study with them. Same thing now, if you look at the American
And just
culture.
that point there, the hadith, that the most beloved, I don't know if it's a hadith or a saying, the most beloved to Allah is the one who people benefit from.
Yeah,
the most.
khairun nas and
That's not just
nas.
like, you know, setting up charities. Like, if you're creating art that
People benefit
benefit
It's helping people.
And then look at-
you're more beloved to Allah
Say it
than a
again?
Muslim.
Khairun nas and fa'ahum
I
bin
just
nas. The
find it-
best of mankind is the one that brings the most benefit to mankind. And look at
Not-
like
not
Muhammad
just
Ali.
Muslims.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali,
Wow.
one of the biggest
Wow.
cultural icons
Ever to exist.
of the 20th century, yeah, or 21st, I don't know which century.
20th century.
20th
But ever to
century.
exist, to be honest.
He's Muslim, he's unapologetically Muslim, he's practicing his Islam. Hundreds of people knew about Islam through him. Same with Malcolm X. His fighting was not substandard. He didn't create a little Muslim league and say, yeah, we're going to fight each other. He was in the mainstream producing.
With helmets.
And don't hit the face.
So I feel like that's the thing now. Muslims, if you're a Muslim artist and you're gonna create music even that has no instruments, listen to other music that has no instruments. Or create
Pentatonic. I was about to say that.
pentatonics.
Yeah.
Put yourself on that level and compare yourself and bring the art
I've got a
up.
question. I have a question.
Poets as well,
Before you
musicians,
look at-
fashion. all of that.
No, I've got an important
Go on,
question.
go on.
This is an important question. So you mentioned that. You mentioned the jazz, you mentioned the Muslims that influenced that. Do you feel that back then Muslims had ihsan far more than we have ihsan now? And
Do
ihsan has...
Muslims even know what Islam is now?
Exactly. And what is ihsan? What's the translation of ihsan?
Excellent.
Excellence. And that if one does not have an internal desire to strive for excellence, they're not going to try to strive for excellence in their art.
Yeah.
They're
you
not
know
going
what
to try
it
to
is?
strive for excellence in their music or in anything. And I feel like now, if we take a look at the Muslim scene now, I feel like you speak to anyone about ihsan, they one don't know what it is. And secondly, no one's really speaking about it properly in the first place.
But I don't even think it's that, because if you look at a lot of those people, they hadn't even studied to that level to know that there was such thing as ihsan. But they were sincere in their Islam and they were sincere in their art.
Yeah, which is from the dimension of ihsan.
Yeah.
Which
So they
whether
had
knew
ihsan.
about
They
it,
had
they
ihsan.
had it,
Yeah.
but, you know.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
like actively, okay, well, I'm going to worship Allah if I see him through my music. And
No.
But it was a thing of,
No,
like,
but if-
okay,
no, but
I'm
if-
Muslim,
if you-
but
they
I make
held
good
themselves
quality
to a
music.
higher standard.
They held themselves to a higher
Yeah.
standard.
No,
And I feel like
I was-
now with the Islamic label,
I don't feel like
people
we
can hold
Muslims-
themselves to a lower standard.
Even in their
so
personal
that's
life as
even
well.
that's even a disrespect to the deen, where you feel like, because I'm making something that's religious, I'm gonna make it lower standard because they're gonna think it anyway,
Yeah,
when
yeah.
it should be above
I
standard.
just think it's strange that Muslims are so content with not being. First of all, people talk about dawah scene, yeah. I think it's so strange that Muslims are not content or are content with low standard of art, in the sense that how do you influence culture and change things? You become a cultural exporter. Yeah, so as you mentioned, for example, I will be the one, okay, cool, I'm going to be in the jazz scene, I'm going to be the top of my game. I'm going to start, people in South London are going to start saying, Wallahi, they're going to start saying, MashaAllah, SubhanAllah, because we're saying in our music and everyone thinks now being Muslim is going to be seen as a cool thing to do.
Yeah, which it was for us.
Exactly, what greater dawah is that? What kind of dawah is, and I'm going to send people right now, the dawah of going to a park for 2 hours, 4 hours and shouting at people and offering people out to fight. Well, I don't understand what kind of dawah. Me as like, if I say me as like, and I've had Muslim people come to me and say to me that, why would I want to come to your religion? You know what I mean? Like, I've had people say to me like, your religion's a bit mad. You man go in the park and debate about people. Is that what? And then the same breath telling me let's fight. Next breath talking about God is the most merciful, all merciful and compassionate God. And it was a rahmatan lil alameen.
Do you know what's to go on that point when you said about, remember Khalid played something for everyone that knows the song A$AP Ferg, Plain Jane.
Yeah, exactly.
No, fam.
I get a mom boost every time.
No. But
Oh,
Khalid,
the live show.
because you weren't looking at me and I almost cried. They were in a club. I don't care what you say. They was in a club,
Got you like
and this
that.
is full of like Joes, Alexes, and Daves, and Becky's, and fam. So obviously when they get rad with the mob, and obviously he stopped at that point, and he went like that.
I mean, Umar, we're about to prepare to laugh. We're like, let's see how they say.
Like because I didn't know what they were gonna do. Were they not gonna say it? Were they gonna say it wrong? And so he started to ride with the mob. Bro, the way these lot all with their chest were like, Alhamdulillah. I was like, And then he rewinded it and he rewinded it again. And I was looking at it, I was like, well, wallahi. I was like, Clee, if you play this, I didn't say it. If Clee plays this one more time, I'm gonna burst out crying because the beauty of in the club where obviously, oh brother, there's alcohol there. I don't give a shit. All of it, alcohol was around. Some of them were drunk, and yet they're still praising Allah. And the thing is, they don't even know. They don't because why? Because why? But no, but why?
You can't tell me that whoever this is that song like ride with the mob, understand that line, alhamdulillah, whatever, check in with me and do your job. What was that line I just said?
What was that random word that is not English?
Alhamdulillah, all praise is for Allah.
Praise be, and they go, praise be to God. Yeah, praise alhamdulillah. Do you know what I mean? And suddenly that's dhikr. That's dhikr. And you've made people do dhikr.
In their vocabulary.
And we're not saying, you need to now go in the club.
No, we're saying, I'm gonna be there at the strip clubs.
You need to go to the clubs and promote it. We're just saying, like, when your art is of a high level, like A$AP Ferg, who isn't even a Muslim, but is surrounded by Muslim in Harlem, New York. Surrounded with Muslims in Harlem, New York, alhamdulillah is a common phrase. So for him to come out and say that, it's just normal to him. And because he's an artist who's taking his art to a high level, when he then says it then transfers to people. Now Becky knows what I'm going to say.
I said, why did they say it? Because Plain Jane. And I said, why did all those people say it? Why did Becky and Alex say it? Why? Because it wasn't a shit song. It's an amazing song. And it just slipped in alhamdulillah there.
You think he placed it there thinking, ooh, let's...
No, because it's part of the culture. And that's another thing, because it reflects of... So what I was saying earlier, it reflects back. So like, remember when we were growing up, the best rappers, some of the best rappers in London was SMSPDC.
Yes.
They were all Muslim. So for us, growing up, young black boys in inner city London or Birmingham or wherever you were, it was cool to be Muslim. But it was cool to say stuff like, alhamdulillah, mashallah, inshallah. Because look, DVS made that tune back in Jahiliyyah. I was cynical, but now I'm spiritual. Everyone memorized the lyrics. You will see in the playground when non-Muslims, kids that don't have anything to do with Islam, they're like, alhamdulillah, I know I'm going to get by. Astaghfirullah, I still could get high. But inshallah, I'll stop all that in due time. Alhamdulillah, my life, but I'm fine.
But then you're wasting time. You could have been reciting.
Bro, growing up, my idols was Sheikh Ibrahim Niasse and DVS. That was me. I was like, bruh, these are the man. But that's what I'm saying though. But because they were high quality rappers, it influenced the culture. Same way with Krypton Conan. Yeah. He did that freestyle on Westwood.
The Amy Wanda.
Why do you pray in Salah?
Why do you stray?
Everybody knows that now. He's taught thousands of people about Islam through that. Yeah. Because people were now researching what is Hajj.
Listen to this, you know, need to make that into a real song because that where my hands are. I was like, pray and get his life right.
How many people that didn't know about Islam before were now researching what's Salah, what's Allah, what's Hajj, what's all of this, what's all of that because of the quality of Krypton Conan and the fact that they're cultural icons. And I'm saying it's not even, you don't even have to be doing mainstream music because you got poets, all these Muslim poets are dead. But you've got poets like Silly Breaks. You've got poets like Amir Suleiman that are affecting thousands of people. Mustafa the Poet. Look, Mustafa the Poet is an amazing example because he's unapologetically Muslim. He practices, he prays from what I know, from what I see of his Instagram. And then it's like, but he's in the mainstream world affecting people and then people are now learning through Islam through him. Do you know what I mean? And the same thing with like Amir Suleiman, his poetry is amazing, whether you're Muslim or not. Obviously, Muslims book him, non-Muslims also book him. Everyone loves his music and his poetry, and I feel like that's where we need to push the thing.
We haven't even covered this, the scam of labelling things Islamic.
Exactly.
That's a biggest scam because...
that's coming into the why now.
Exactly. First of all, you're saying, when you say something is Islamic, you have it's a connotation that it's divine. So Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has sanctioned this. We've allowed this to be, this is allowed in our religion. This is what God and His Messenger want from us. So now you're saying that, okay, cool, we've got this music now. It is Islamic music.
I don't have a problem with the term because, the reason I don't have a problem with the term because Three Little Birds by Bob Marley is Islamic.
Yeah, that's a whole.
I would say that.
But you know what Islamic?
You wouldn't say that.
No, I have no issue with saying that.
We would say that, but other people be like, no, but he doesn't say Allah, Rasulullah.
They don't know the definition of what Islamic is. Islamic.
You said,
Islamic is an adjective. It's an adjective. It's a description. It's
going back to what you're saying about it being a filter.
It's something that relates back to Islam. That's it. And then we have to define what Islam is. So. So him saying
Islam according to who?
yeah, well, we'll have to define what Islam is, and then it's like the point that you just said, Islam defined according to who. But when he said Bob Marley songs, I find a lot of what Bob Marley sings about Islamic because it relates to Islam. That's how I perceive Islamic.
But you're open-minded.
You're open-minded though.
But the
No,
fact that
that's
it
how, the
doesn't have...
that's how the historians look at
Yeah,
the word
but
Islamic. That's how the philosophers often look at this
I mean,
term
it's
Islamic.
But in
Interesting
21st
what-
century West, if it
Academics
doesn't
look at the
have
word like
Arabic
that.
words on it, and it doesn't say Allah Rasulullah in it, or Inshallah, or some kind of Arabic quotation from the Quran directly, or Hadith directly, they'll say it's not Islamic.
Well, that's wrong, isn't it?
So that's and I
what
think
we're
that's
doing.
also part of the problem.
That's the conclusion. That's wrong.
That's wrong.
We'll stop the podcast now. It's wrong.
Isn't that like a form of supremacy,
But-
like a
by
language
Shihab
supremacy?
Ahmed. And his title of the book is called "What is Islamic?"
What is
And
yeah?
he goes through
Who?
Shihab Ahmed. He goes through like he died recently apparently. I've died recently, I think in the early 2000s or late 90s. He goes through like he lists everything about Islamic art, Islamic music, Islamic like Muslims who drank alcohol. He goes through everything here. His whole conclusion was because of what happened in history, we had something called Islamic coins.
Queens.
So there you put like Allah, His Messenger, the Prophet seal. That became Islamic currency. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah. So in the end, he just said basically anything Muslims did, which is artistic output, just became Islamic.
Yeah,
By
historically.
Historically, that's what he said recently. Because when you look at it, because there's no common thread. If there's a common thread, then that means the art in Morocco, the art in West Africa, the art in Sub-Saharan Africa will all be the same. If it was Islamic, yeah, because it's the same source, but it's not.
Exactly.
So,
But
And
then
that's
people
what
in the Western world are trying to create an Islamic identity
Exactly.
in the Western world.
Yeah,
but,
so-
100%.
but it's not rooted in the
But they
West.
don't understand it. Yeah,
But it
But
has
it's
to
not
be.
rooted in the West.
Do you feel like it has to be rooted in the West? This
It has to
identity
be,
that we're going
100%.
to
That's
develop.
what
you're
you're
coming to
So
the
then,
West.
so no, but then that's like saying, oh well, then no, we're taking on secular, values onto our identity, and we don't feel
But
comfortable
that
with
means
that.
that means Islam has no place here then.
Yeah,
No, but
but
that's-
yeah,
Like,
but
no,
but
we've already
they
said
say that.
Islam is. We've already just agreed that Islam is the filter.
No, it's saying that secularism has no place here, and that Islam has a place here.
But I think that's
See, it's
even
switched.
false. But that's people's lack of knowledge and lack of knowledge of history.
Exactly.
So like, look at, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said.
Islam should replace secularism. That's the
He never said that.
No. I didn't say that.
But what,
Yeah,
Prophet, so
didn't say that.
I'm looking at from when Islam started in the Hijaz to when it spread throughout the world in the time of Umar bin al-Khattab, yeah, and then the Islamic culture that developed after it. The Islamic culture was a development of a fusion between the message of the Prophet ﷺ and the secular cultures, the Byzantine and the Persian cultures that existed at the time.
Yes.
Because, like, look, the Prophet ﷺ said, we are an unlettered nation, we're an illiterate nation, we don't read and we don't write things down. Yeah, we don't read and we don't calculate. We don't write and we don't calculate. The concept of sitting down reading books was not part of Arab culture and society at the time. They used to memorize, it was an oral culture. They didn't even have their alphabet. It's Islam that made the Quran a book, and then the alphabet and nuqtas and all of these things developed after that, after the time of Ali ibn Abi Talib. So then now you get into the stage of Islam spread across the world. 200 years after the Prophet ﷺ died, we see the first books of hadith being written, the first books of fiqh being written,
law.
legal manuals, all of these
You
things.
say
that
2,000.
200.
200, yeah. All of these things are happening, but why are they happening? It's because Muslims have now conquered all these lands where people are reading books, and they're not Muslim society, and they're like, well, these people have books on their prophets, these people have books on their
They
laws,
change it,
these people have books on their philosophies, we should do the same.
Yeah.
And so they took the same framework and made it, because the Prophet ﷺ,
They made
there
it
was no
Islamic
hadith
Bible.
books, there was no Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sahih Tirmidhi in his time. 200 years after he passed away, people were looking at other people and saying, these people write books, read books, study books, let's do this book thing now. And then they start producing it. Kalam, Aqidah, even the whole science of Aqidah, it develops because they're coming into contact with Greek philosophy, with all of these different ideologies, and they're like, well,
Discursive
okay, well, we
theology,
need to have an Islamic response to this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's define what we believe in as Muslims according to the Quran and the Sunnah and the Salaf, and then they
And you
developed
say
it.
that's Aqidah.
That's Aqidah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's mad. No, I know what it is. I'm just saying it's mad that like people when they talk about Aqidah, they talk about it like there was this root thing that they had back in the time of the Prophet Muhammad. So like, it's a made up thing.
One of the sheikh in Mauritania, Sheikh Mohammed Wal Khairi, he said once, he said, he said, okay, there's Aqidah and we all have to study Aqidah. No Aqidah. He said, but the Aqidah of the Arif, the Aqidah of the person who really knows Allah is هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. That's an ayah in Surah Hadid. He's the first, he's the last, he's the hidden, he's the seen, and he knows everything.
Yeah, talk about that.
Because look, in the time of the Sahaba, they didn't have wajibul wujud and all of these Aqidah terms. They just had the Quran. And the Quran says,
It's
Allah is the
experiential
first, the
for them,
last,
innit?
the hidden and the seen. That was Allah for them. Allah is, فَإِنَّمَا تَوَلَّوْا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. Wherever you turn is the face of Allah. That's Allah for them. Do you know what I mean? They don't have this whole conceptualization of da-da-da-da-da, but that's a reaction.
Is that the only...
So I'm saying now, when we have come into the West,
So we're in the
and
West
we're trying
now,
to
yeah.
create a reactionary Muslim culture.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Finish it.
No, my point was that I think Muslims are just so happy with just being reactionary. I don't understand. It's like we're reacting to Western thought, or we're reacting to liberalism. We're reacting to post-colonial hang-ups, yeah. And we don't have. So my problem is how on earth do you expect to forge identity for yourself without rooted in something that's going to be proper and solid, as opposed to being just reactionary? When you're
I'm saying, even if you're doing it,
when you're reactionary, you're never going to be solid. All you can do is
You never have the time to actually do
exactly.
anything.
All you're going to do is keep looking, okay, oh no, now, what's happening now? LGBTQ, we've got to react to that. What's happening now? Oh my God, there's a woman imam, feminism, we've got to react to that. No. Before these even things come out there, what does Islam say about feminism before you even get to that point? Before you have women leading Salah in the mosque, what does Islam say about feminism? Before that. Then you have your principles.
So you have your base before
anything happens.
before you start going out.
I'm not even anti-reactionarism. Reactionary. Is it even a word? What's a word today?
It's an Islamic word because it was made by Muslims on a Muslim podcast. Baraka is a Muslim word.
Being anti-reactionary,
Ism. Mashallah.
sir. Yeah. Being anti-reactionary, I'm not even disagreeing with it or agreeing with it. I'm saying if you're going to be reactionary, at least make it good. If you're going to be reactionary, at least make it good.
But I agree with what you just said, because taking it into a philosophical concept, I was always, when I started to like pick up and read philosophy books, Confucius, Carl Jung, all these people, I was like, you know what I mean? Like, I can throw some more names if you need me to. You got Nietzsche. You got Plato, Socrates, you know them too. Yeah, anyway, good mates they were. But I used to go to the point. Anyway, no, stop. Basically, because I went into that before I had my
Grounding.
my Islamic philosophical grounding that was taught to me by Sheikh Ibn Yas and his philosophy, and I adopted that philosophy, which is my truth. I didn't have that, and when I delved into the realm of philosophy, all of these people making amazing points about life, the afterlife. I was like, shit, this guy knows what he's talking. Confucius, I was like, this, you know what he's on about. This guy knows what he's on about. It's like, but you need your own grounding before you step into these territories. So but even as when he was talking about Muslims going out and being reactionary, if you know what is, and
then you won't be shaking.
You don't need to shake when this happens. All you need to do is look at it and just be like, well, that's not it. Do you know what I mean?
Look at like you're talking about all these philosophers, and you had this experience now. 1,000 years ago, the Muslims had the same experience because they were translating Greek philosophy into Arabic and reading it, and they're like, "Rah, Socrates knows what he's talking about."
Yeah, but they also disagreed
all
with
these
them.
people,
Yeah,
and then they disagreed with them. But they had the Quran, so they had
they had that thing to disagree
They had their
with.
essence in the Quran and the Hadith, and then they read the Greek philosophy and they said, "Okay,
What
you know what,
advice-
where does it match up? Where does it go in?
So
we're
what
gonna
advice
come-
would you give to
I would
someone
say-
who wants to ground themselves in Islam to not feel so reactionary? I think that's one of the most important things that we can deliver on this video is that if someone's watching this video right now and they're like, I don't want to be that reactionary Muslim, I know that I am and it takes so much
reacting
energy.
to what we just said.
I take so much energy, I'd rather be responsive. What steps can they actually take? What practical steps can they take to no longer be that reactionary Muslim and start to respond as opposed to react?
The issue is, what's the difference between
I was about to say, what's the
response and
difference?
reaction?
So a reaction is often irrational, emotional, and not thought out. A response is often grounded in intelligence, rationality, and clarity.
Was that what you was asking for when you said we should stop being reactionary? Was it that we should be
like
more
just
respondary?
respond.
Or do you think
A respondarianism.
That's another word. Another Muslim word
open up that
today.
Muslim dictionary because we've got a few
By the
additional.
way-
Where's the stamp?
By the way, that's in Stephen Covey's Habits of Highly Effective People.
Responsive.
Respond, don't react.
There you go. But
So it's responding to the situation as
was that
opposed
what
to
he was
going,
calling towards? That we should respond more, or that we should be, creating more?
I think first things first. Well, before we
The West needs
before
to
we even get
react
to
to-
big terms of rationale and stuff, Muslims just need to chill out.
I agree.
Yeah,
No, just
but that's
chill out.
yeah,
Just chill out and don't be so on edge about things. No one in the UK is going to try and take your Islam away from you. You have a lot of rights in the UK. You are very comfortable here. I live in Egypt. We don't have these places. I come in Egypt here. People can't talk freely in Egypt, for example. Yeah, and there's so many issues people have. Muslims have gone through the Mongols fighting them. They've gone through fake prophets. They've gone through, and Islam has stayed. Yeah, we're good. It's UK, and you have Bob and Jim saying, "Oh, if you Muslims get out of my country," and you all want to leave Islam and do hijrah, and leave England and do hijrah.
You want to be a victim.
You know, if you're a victim, just first of all, just chill out, and second of all, just like okay, cool. Read what your tradition says about certain things from the base, from the source.
Okay.
Yeah, with no cultural kind of
Like with
commentary.
teacher.
Or from 20-year-olds on YouTube who have not studied.
Things is coming for people.
20-year-olds on YouTube that if you let me not. Yeah, no, I'm just like, yeah, sorry, no, go on. Because if I start, I'm gonna just.
I'm not gonna
No,
start.
but I'm gonna say, adding on to your point, because when you say Muslim child, no, but we need to chill out. It's like the hakika, yeah.
No.
Arabic
We
words.
just brush it.
What's the Arabic course that I was doing with Jibril? What's it called? What's it called?
Arabica.
Yeah, Arabica. Yeah.
Arabica Institute.
Hakika, which is the reality of the situation. What did you say? Anyway, the Hakika, which is the reality of the situation. Like you just said about the Mongols fighting on false prophet. And look where we are. Islam is still here. Yeah. You don't need to defend this religion.
Thank you.
Allah will do that.
Thank you.
He doesn't need you. He doesn't. Like that's the thing. Because like, no, but he needs me. No, he does not. and again, it's such
that
a.
reminds me of the verse or the chapter in the Quran.
Surah we've got Arabic. We've got Hafiz.
Surah Al-Fil, where it was, Prophet Ibrahim, if I'm.
No.
Get him off.
Don't got the name wrong.
Just correct
Correct the name.
Respond to him. Don't react.
There was no prophet in that time.
It's a time of.
Did he not become a prophet?
Prophet Suleiman.
What are you? Just tell the
You
story.
just say what you're trying to say. The name doesn't.
We'll cut this out. Bit.
Ibrahim was
Just
a prophet.
without
alayhi
phases.
salam.
Ibrahim alayhi salam was a prophet.
Okay, did he build Mecca?
He built the Kaaba.
The Kaaba, okay.
Yeah.
Did someone come to try and destroy it?
About 5,000 years after him.
Who came to destroy it?
Abraham.
Okay.
From Ethiopia.
All right.
But
The point remains. He built Mecca.
The Islamic home.
He built the house. 5,000 years ago, whatever. What's his name? Abracadabra comes along, tries to destroy it. He tries to destroy it. Whoever was the chief of the village took his people.
Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet says,
The goats and stuff.
Yes. Took his people and to take, because obviously there was an impending attack, elephant and them thing there and all that. And someone said to him, well, you're protecting all the people, you're saving all the people. What about the house of Allah? And he said,
bring me home. Take him home.
What you said about
Take him home, clean.
defending
Bring him
Islam
home.
is like, the people are mine to look after. The house is Allah. You will protect Time's coming up. The point is that Allah protected his house. They tried to come, the elephants came, they got dealt with. Read
They got sprayed up.
The year of the elephant. Read it. It's a madness.
Accuracy.
It's a madness. and that's what Allah did to religion. So what we can take from this is that Muslims, we need to chill. Allah will take care of Islam, and we need to concentrate on creating good quality art. And what was the beautiful statement you said? Let's focus on making Islamic art or Islamic poetry. Let's just be Muslims who create content, whatever we create, and inshallah we can do that. Thank you guys. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, please leave a like and a review. We do appreciate it. Leave a like if you're watching on YouTube. Comment below as well. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Until next time, please take care.
Before Malcolm.
Peace and blessings.
Go vote that.